All right, today we are diving into one of the absolute most powerful tools you can have in your Spanish toolkit. I'm talking about the past participle. If you can really get this down, you're going to unlock a whole new way of speaking.
So, let me ask you something. When you hear past participle, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it just making sentences like, I have done something? If that's you, then you are in for a really pleasant surprise.
Because, honestly, the past participle is the true workhorse of Spanish verbs. It is not a one-trick pony. Think of it more like a Swiss Army knife. It has so many different functions, and we are about to unpack all of them.
Okay, so first things first. Before we get into all the cool stuff it can do, we need to make sure we have a super solid foundation. We got to be crystal clear on what the past participle actually is.
So, to put it simply, it's just the Spanish version of what we do in English with words like spoken, eaten, or finished. And the good news is, making the regular ones is incredibly easy. For AR verbs, you just drop the ending and add ado, so hablar becomes hablado. And for ER and IR verbs, you add ido, so comer becomes comido. See? Simple as that.
Okay, got the basics down? Good. Because now we get to the really exciting part. The 4 main jobs that this amazing little verb form can do for you.
Yep, that's right. There are 4 key uses. And I'm telling you, mastering these is the real secret to making your Spanish sound so much more natural and, sophisticated. So let's break them down, one by one.
First up, we've got the one you're probably most familiar with, using it with the verb haber to form those perfect tenses. This is your classic I have eaten, I had lived, he will have finished. Now, the number one rule here, and you gotta remember this, is that when it's paired with haber, the past participle is like a rock. It is always going to end in O. It never ever changes.
Use number 2 is for building the passive voice. And for this, we use the verb ser. This is how you express that something was done by somebody else. The formula is really straightforward. You've got your subject, a form of ser, the past participle, and then maybe the person who did the action. A perfect example is, El libro fue escrito por Cervantes. The book was written by Cervantes.
Okay, now this is a huge deal, so pay close attention. Remember how I said the participle is a rock with haber? Well, with ser, it's a total chameleon. It has to change its ending to agree in both gender and number with whatever the subject is. So, if you're talking about las cartas, feminine, plural, the participle has to become escritas. This rule is absolutely massive.
Third, and this is one of my favorites, is using the past participle as a simple adjective. This is where your Spanish starts to sound really good. It just describes a noun directly. An open door, a hidden treasure, a well-kept secret. And just like any other adjective in Spanish, you guessed it, it has to agree with the noun. Una puerta is feminine, so the participle has to be abierta.
And our 4th use, which is a bit more formal, a little more literary, but it's such a cool trick to have up your sleeve, it's called the absolute construction. Basically, you start a phrase with the past participle to mean having done something. So, terminada la reunión means the meeting having finished. It's just a really slick, concise way to connect your ideas.
Now, of course, it wouldn't be Spanish if there weren't some exceptions to the rules, right? To really get a handle on the past participle, you absolutely have to know the irregulars. So, think of this next bit as your essential cheat sheet to sound fluent.
These 10 right here just don't play by the ado or ido rules. You've just got to memorize them. But trust me, it is so worth it. Because words like hecho from hacer, dicho from decir, and escrito from escribir, they are everywhere. You will use these constantly.
And hey, to help you lock them in, here's a kind of silly but really effective mnemonic. The first letter of each word in this sentence lines up with an irregular participle. Dicho, hecho, roto, vuelto, and so on. It's a fun little trick to burn them into your memory for good.
Okay, you've got the basics, you've got the 4 main uses, and you've got the irregulars. Are you ready to level up? Now we're going to look at a couple of really common traps that people fall into. Learning to sidestep these will make you sound so much more advanced.
This is a big one, ser versus estar with the participle. We already saw that ser plus the participle describes the passive action. The window was broken by the wind. That's the event. But estar plus the participle describes the state it's in now. The window is broken. So one is the action happening, the other is the result. It's a subtle difference, but it's absolutely crucial.
And just to make things a little spicier, there are actually a few verbs that have 2 past participles, a regular one and an irregular one.
But don't panic. There's a really simple pro tip for this. When you're using it as an adjective, you're almost always going to want to use that short, irregular form. Think about it. You always order papas fritas, right? Never papas freídas.
So, wow, we have covered a lot of ground. How do you possibly keep all of this straight when you're in the middle of a conversation? Well, this final section is your complete toolkit. It's a decision-making guide to help you pick the right structure every single time.
This chart right here, this is your new best friend. Let's just run through it real quick. If you want to say have done something, you use haber, and there's no agreement. If you're talking about a passive action like was done by, you use ser, and you have to make it agree. To describe a state or condition, like is broken, you use estar, and again it has to agree. And finally, for just a simple description, you use it like an adjective and make it agree. Just know what you're trying to say, and this guide will point you to the right answer.
And that is the Spanish past participle, a true powerhouse. We've seen how it does so much more than just one thing. So the big question I have for you is this. Which of these 4 amazing uses are you going to go out and practice first?